Single mom's incredible act saves billionaire's life now. 5 years later, he'll uncover the truth. Sarah felt the weight of the world every time she slid her serving tray onto the table at the diner. Bills piled like dirty dishes at home, each one reminded her of her late mother's dreams for the community center. The flickering streetlights outside cast long shadows as she wrapped up her shift. With 2 kids, Angel and Marcus, relying on her, the nights were relentless. Yet, every evening after work, her heart raced with determination as she headed to the center, a refuge for kids whose lives mirrored her own struggles. But tonight felt different. As Sarah walked, the distant sound of screeching tires broke the cool evening air. Her instincts kicked in. She dashed toward the noise, following the thrumming of panic in her chest. Her breath quickening, she stumbled upon a wreck, metal crumpled like aluminum foil, flames licking the night sky. It was Jack, the local billionaire, his face twisted in pain inside the mangled wreckage. "Help!" His voice rasped, faint but urgent. Sarah's heart raced as she wrestled with fear and adrenaline, a maternal instinct flooding her veins. Without a moment's hesitation, she lunged into the chaos, calling for help. The heat was unbearable, singeing her skin as she pulled Jack from the fire's clutches. Sweat mingled with tears blurred her vision, but she focused on saving a life. In that harrowing moment, she didn't think, she just acted. 5 years later, life moved on. Sarah's days blurred together as she juggled school drop-offs, late-night shifts, and the ever-looming bills. The community center still stood, but its roof sagged with neglect, and so did her hope. Jack, on the other hand, was a titan of industry, surrounded by wealth but untouched by the warmth of her small-town spirit. He had become so distant, she barely recognized the man he'd become. Suddenly, a scandal erupted around Jack, questions of his fortune's origins making headlines. Grappling with a tarnished reputation, he couldn't shake images of the woman who pulled him from the brink. Memories flooded back of that fateful night, the trembling hands of a determined mother pushing through despair. Sarah had become a flickering beacon of hope, and now, he sought her out, yearning to express his gratitude. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jack delved deeper into the story of Sarah's life, he uncovered the struggles she faced head-on daily, fighting fiercely to keep the community center afloat. Their worlds collided with an intensity that challenged all he thought he understood about success and its price. Would he be able to bridge the chasm of their difference? The clock ticked toward their destiny, both trembling at the thought of what their reunion could unearth. As Jack and Sarah prepared to face each other, the turbulence in the air thickened. The divide between rich and poor was more pronounced than ever, with whispers of activism rising in the town. Would their fateful connection bring them together or tear them apart? A storm brewed not just in their hearts, but within the very essence of the community they each defined differently. Would they rise as allies or remain forever divided? The morning sun filtered through the dusty windows of the community center, casting long, slanted beams of light across the worn wooden floor. Sarah stood in the center, taking a moment to breathe in the familiar smells. The faint scent of old paint mingled with the hints of leftover lunches, bustling kids, and laughter that echoed in her heart. But today, a new anxiety gnawed at her. Today was the day that Jack would finally visit. With her hands clasped tightly around a mug of lukewarm coffee, she rehearsed what she would say. "Thank you for everything," felt too small. Every word was a thread she feared had to be woven with care. They had shared a moment that changed both their lives, yet the past 5 years had felt like a chasm between them. Her heart pounded at the thought of seeing him, the man whose life she saved, who now stood on the precipice of power and influence. As she arranged folding chairs around a table for the after-school program, Sarah heard the familiar rev of a luxury car engine outside. Gritting her teeth, she fought the sudden clenching of her stomach, remembering how it felt to be in his presence. Powerful, far removed from her reality. The door swung open, and in walked Jack. He was different from the frail man she rescued. Today, he stood tall, dressed confidently in tailored attire that looked too foreign for this space. Yet, his eyes searched the room, almost vulnerable. When they locked gazes, an unmistakable current shot through the air. She could see the determination in his eyes, a haunting reminder of the night they connected. "Sarah," he said, his voice a mix of respect and warmth. "Jack," she replied, swallowing hard. Her heart raced, the weight of 5 years pressing down on them both. He glanced around the center, a place so familiar to Sarah, but so foreign to him. "You've done an amazing job here," he said, genuine admiration lighting up his face. "It needs a lot of work," she deflected, scanning the peeling paint and out-of-date posters that lined the walls. "But the kids love it." His smile faded slightly. "Have you thought about what it takes to really make it thrive? To bring in more support?" Support, the word hung in the air. "I'm just trying to keep it open, Jack. I work nights just to pay the bills. It's a constant struggle." Jack's brow furrowed, and she saw a flicker of understanding in his eyes. "I want to help," he said, almost breathlessly. "I mean it. I can't just forget what happened." A knot formed in her throat at his words. Help from him felt like a double-edged sword. She wanted what was best for the kids, but could she accept a handout from the man who embodied everything she had fought against? He was a billionaire, a world away from her reality. "Why now?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Because I know what it feels like to be saved," he said, taking a step closer. "And I want to give back." For a second, her instincts screamed for her to pull away. Trust was something she had built walls around, fiercely protective of her little world. But something in his gaze urged her to reconsider. As they stood there, the weight of their unspoken histories hung heavy in the air. Unaware, the kids began to filter in, laughter replacing the tension. Sarah glanced away, taking a breath to steady herself. "Let us talk," she finally said, her decision made but her heart racing with uncertainty. Jack nodded, a hint of relief washing over his expression. But beneath that, a silver lining of complications was already forming, twisting their paths in ways neither expected. Would this meeting lead to their reunion being a source of strength, or would it unravel into chaos? The stage was set. Just as they were about to plunge deeper into a conversation that could shift everything, a loud crash echoed from outside, shattering their moment. "What now?" Sarah muttered, glancing toward the door, her heart racing. Their worlds were about to collide in ways they never imagined. Would they be strong enough to face this next challenge together? The sound of shattering glass echoed through the air, pulling Sarah sharply back into the present. Her heart raced as she rushed toward the door, Jack right behind her. She glanced over her shoulder, uncertainty and dread written all over her face. As they stepped outside, the sun now felt too bright, almost invasive. Outside, a scene unfolded that instantly filled her with dread. A group of kids stood huddled around a flipped-over bicycle, its metal frame dented but intact. A few others were peering toward the street, their eyes wide with concern. One boy, visible among the crowd, was cradling his arm close to his body, tears welling in his eyes. "What happened?" Sarah called out, her voice steady despite the frantic pounding of her heart. "It just fell," shouted a girl with pigtails, her gaze darting between her friends. "I don't know if Max is hurt." Jack was beside her now, crouching down to the boy's level. "Hey, what is your name?" he asked. "Max," the boy sniffed, tears spilling down his dirt-smudged cheeks. "I think I felt funny." Jack's presence, so commanding yet gentle, seemed to instill an immediate sense of calm. "Okay, Max, let us take a look." He gently moved the child's arm, eliciting a whimper, but immediately softened his movements. The parents, one by one, began to appear from across the street. Sarah felt a surge of relief when she noticed Max's mother breaking through the crowd. The woman rushed to her son, wrapping him in her arms, her eyes shooting daggers at the bicycle that had caused the scare. "Is he okay?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. Jack, still focused on checking Max's arm, nodded reassuringly before turning back to the gathered kids. "All right, everyone," Jack said, his tone light yet authoritative. "Accidents happen, but let us make sure we watch out for one another. Can we do that?" The kids nodded, their eyes sparkling with admiration, moving away from the panic that had engulfed them moments ago. Sarah felt a twist in her heart. She was used to guiding these kids, comforting them when they fell. Watching Jack step into that role so naturally stirred an unexpected wistfulness within her. "Thank you," Max's mother said, her voice breaking through her earlier worry. "I appreciate you helping him." Jack smiled, that familiar warmth radiating from him. "No need to thank me. Just doing what anyone would." Sarah felt a flicker of something hope, relief. It was quickly replaced by the reality creeping back in. Did she want all of this? His presence, his support? Or was it an invitation to step further into an emptiness she had fought so hard to avoid? "Are you okay?" she whispered to Jack as the initial chaos subsided. Their eyes met again, the connection stronger than it had been just moments before, yet there was something else tugging at her uncertainty. He opened his mouth to speak, then glanced at Max and his mother, momentarily losing his words. The laughter of the kids, returning now that the tension had lifted, swirled around them. "Can we continue our talk?" Sarah finally asked, stepping bravely into that space of vulnerability. Jack nodded, relief washing over his features again. "Let us grab some coffee first," he suggested, a hint of a smile forming. And just before they turned to head back inside, they both caught sight of the community center's playground, a tangle of swings and slides that had also seen years of joy, care, and now, so much uncertainty. As they walked back, Sarah felt the air charged with unspoken words. Just what kind of help could Jack offer? And perhaps more importantly, what kind of help did she truly need? But even as they stepped back inside, with the laughter of kids echoing around them, the question remained, could she let the past go long enough to step into a new beginning? Something clicked in her mind as she looked up at Jack, the air heavy with possibility. What if this was more than just a reunion? What if their paths weren't just crossing but intertwining in some way neither had expected? The thought both terrified and exhilarated her as they crossed the threshold back into the center. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped them as Jack and Sarah stepped into the small cafe, nestled in the corner of the community center. The place buzzed with activity, laughter and light conversation weaving through the air, creating a warm haven from the chaos outside. Sarah felt a flutter of nerves and anticipation dance in her stomach, grateful for the comforting clatter of cups and friendly smiles of patrons. "Let us grab a table over there," Jack suggested, nodding towards a quiet corner with a view of the playground. They made their way through the throng, and Sarah's mind raced with thoughts. What would she say? How could she articulate the feelings churning inside her? They settled at the table, drinks in hand. The steam wafted up, mingling with the tension lingering between them. Sarah caught Jack's eye, and for a moment, the world around them faded. His gaze burned with a familiarity that both scared and soothed her. "So, what has been going on with you?" he asked, taking a sip of his coffee. The everyday question felt monumental, like he was asking for a window into her heart. "I've been busy." Sarah's voice was softer than she intended. "It's been a whirlwind since things changed." She played with the handle of her mug, avoiding his gaze for a heartbeat longer. "There are days when I feel lost, like I'm just trying to keep my head above water." Jack leaned in, his expression shifting to one of genuine concern. "You don't have to go through everything alone, you know. Not anymore." At his words, something inside Sarah softened. It had been so long since someone extended an open hand, and she fought the urge to lean into that warmth. "I don't want to be a burden," she said, the weight of her years alone spilling out. "I've been doing it by myself for so long." "You're not a burden," Jack insisted softly, shaking his head. "You're strong, but everyone needs support. We're not made to do this alone. It's okay to ask for help." His words struck a chord. She thought of the moments spent calming fears, patching scraped knees. Yet here she was, struggling to ask for the simplest form of care. Their time at the cafe slipped into a comfortable silence, punctuated only by the laughter of children in the distance. Sarah took the opportunity to gather her thoughts. If she was brave enough, she could lay her heart bare. "Can we talk about us? About what happened?" The question hung in the air like a delicate thread. Jack's eyes flickered with surprise, then something deeper, recognition. "Yeah, I think we should. It's been 5 years, Sarah. 5 years." The weight of time compressed in a single breath. She could feel regret shadowing her. Do you think we could have picked up where we left off? Or is that just wishful thinking?" Jack looked down at his coffee, contemplative. "I don't know, but I feel there is still something here." Something unfinished. The honesty in his voice sent her heart racing. Were they standing on the edge of something new? Could she really allow herself to hope again? The rush of emotions clawed at her, the past and present colliding. Taking a deep breath, she weighed her next words. I've thought about you. About what could have been. What could still be. Jack countered, his eyes shining with determination. But just then, their moment was interrupted as a loud crash drew their attention to the playground. A swing had snapped, sending two kids tumbling. Sarah's mother instincts kicked in, her heartbeat quickening again. Jack glanced at her, and she could see the shared urgency in his eyes. Come on, Sarah said, the echoes of their conversation replaced by the sounds of chaos. They need us. As they rushed out into the playground scene, she felt the thrill of connection even amid chaos transforming into shared purpose. Could this really be the start of something? Could they dive into the uncertainty together? Yet, the question lingered in her mind. Would they both rise to face the challenges ahead, or was this just another fleeting moment, easily broken like those fragile swings? They sprang into action, their conversation fading into the backdrop of shouts and cries. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest as she reached the scene where the children lay on the ground, dusting off grass stains and crying for comfort. Jack was right beside her. Are you okay? Sarah knelt beside a little girl, brushing her tears away with gentle hands. The child sniffled and nodded, holding her elbow as if she had been wounded deeply, but Sarah could see it was just a scrape. Let us get the kids checked by the nurse, Jack said, already signaling to a nearby parent who had dashed over to offer assistance. His calm presence steadied her as they formed a circle of care around the children, their instincts as parents kicking in despite the chaos of the moment. As adults hurried to gather the kids and call for help, Sarah felt a rush of gratitude surging through her. Here they were, shoulder to shoulder, a team just like when they were young, navigating the unpredictability of life together. Despite the urgency of the moment, a familiar warmth returned as Jack caught her eye. He quickly flashed her a smile, a reminder of that bond they shared. You're amazing with them, he said softly, his voice cutting through the noise. Thanks, she replied, her pulse still racing not just from the adrenaline, but from the flickers of hope igniting within her. It was like old times, yet somehow better. They were together, handling the moment, and it felt right. As the crowd began to disperse, the nurse arrived and the chaos started to settle. Jack turned to Sarah, his eyes serious now, as the reality of what just happened settled around them. What if one of the swings had fallen on a parent instead? He mused, weighing the gravity of the incident. Life can change in an instant, you know? His words struck a chord within her. They felt heavier now, echoing the quiet truth of their own lives. I guess that's why we shouldn't waste time, Sarah said hesitantly, her voice wavering. She understood what he meant. Every moment was precious, especially with so many uncertainties on the horizon. Jack stepped closer, lowering his voice. About us, Sarah? I think we owe it to ourselves to explore this. What's between us deserves a second chance. She swallowed hard, feeling tears prick at her eyes again. The blend of fear and hope was intoxicating. She started, but the words caught in her throat. What if she opened up too much? What if he slipped through her fingers again? But then she saw the look in his eyes, raw and earnest, as if he knew what she was wrestling with. We can't change the past, but we can create a future that matters, he said softly, as though he was pulling her closer without touching her at all. As Sarah surveyed the playground, shadows of laughter and joy resurfaced, bringing back the sense of potential. Swings might break, but connections could be mended, couldn't they? She took a deep breath, ready, yet unsure. Okay, she finally said, her voice steadying. Let's take this one day at a time. Jack smiled, the sight igniting a tiny spark of courage deep within her. But as they stood together, the world around them began to rush back in. The children were now up and giggling, the distress forgotten, but for Sarah, the unease was still there. Everyone could see how the moment drew them closer, yet she wondered, was it strong enough to hold them? As their eyes locked, a tingling sense of anticipation filled the space between them. Could they truly rebuild something beautiful from the wreckage of their past? But just then, Sarah noticed a figure approaching, a familiar silhouette that made her heart drop. The past was not done with her yet. Sarah, the voice called, slicing through the moment. Who was it this time? Would she be able to face whatever or whoever it was? especially with Jack standing beside her. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat as she turned to face the voice that pulled her from her reverie. There, just a few feet away, stood Lisa, her college friend, the one person from her past she had least expected to see today. The air grew heavy between them, a mix of confusion and unresolved tension hanging like damp laundry. "Sarah?" Lisa said again, her tone painting a picture of disbelief. As she stepped closer, Sarah noticed the weariness etched on her face, as if the years had tangled them in a web of life's struggles. Jack shifted slightly beside her, and his presence was a comfort, yet it also heightened the turmoil brewing inside Sarah. "Lisa, what are you doing here?" She managed to stammer, her heart racing in a different way now, one tethered to a shared history she thought was behind her. "I heard about the incident at the park. I came to help," Lisa replied, her eyes darting to the children playing in the background before locking back onto Sarah. She seemed earnest, but behind that earnestness was a hint of something Sarah couldn't quite place a flicker of judgment or nostalgia. "Help?" Sarah echoed, her voice sharper than intended. "Last I checked, we haven't exactly kept in touch." "Why now?" Lisa flinched, and Sarah immediately felt a pang of regret. It wasn't fair to unload past grievances on her friend in this moment. "I mean, I appreciate it. Really." She glanced at Jack, who remained quiet but observant. "The truth is, I've moved back to town," Lisa said, her gaze shifting to her shoes for a brief moment, as if the weight of her words pulled her down. "I wanted to reconnect with old friends. Especially you." "How unexpected," Sarah replied, trying to mask her uncertainty. She knew Lisa had once played a huge role in her life, encouraging her to chase dreams, but every good memory seemed to be buried under years of strange silence and unspoken words. Before Sarah could gather her thoughts, Jack stepped forward, extending his hand. "Hi, I'm Jack," he said, trying to break the tension. "Sarah and I are working together quite a bit lately." Sarah's heart warmed a little at the way Jack supported her, how he attempted to weave a bond where one felt frayed. "Nice to meet you, Jack," Lisa replied, though her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "I hope you're looking after her. Sarah is someone worth caring for." Surprised, Sarah felt an odd mix of appreciation and embarrassment. Jack turned to her with a questioning look, but she shrugged it off. "Listen, can we talk?" Lisa asked then, dropping her voice as if confusion stemmed from something deeper. "About everything. The past, and why I left." Tension swelled in Sarah's chest. She was not sure if she was ready to hear whatever Lisa had to say. Every line they might cross was a path leading straight to memories she thought were buried. Jack glanced at Sarah, his brow raised, silently asking if she wanted to have this discussion now. "I don't know, Lisa," Sarah said finally, her voice tense. "Things are complicated for me right now. I'm still trying to figure things out." "I understand. But time isn't always on our side," Lisa urged gently but firmly. "Maybe there's something you need to know." Jack moved closer to Sarah, his presence a steady anchor, but Sarah felt like she was drifting. "What kind of something?" she asked, her heart hammering. But before Lisa could respond, a loud, excited shout erupted from the playground. A child had tripped, sending toys flying. Sarah's attention snapped away. Chaos unfurled again as parents rushed over. The moment slipped through her fingers, and she felt the weight of their previous conversation linger heavily in the air. "Let's just," Sarah hesitated, looking back at Jack, who remained nearby. "Maybe this isn't the best time. Can we talk later?" Lisa hesitated, searching Sarah's face as if trying to decipher the meaning behind her guarded expression. "Are you sure?" Lisa asked, a flicker of concern in her voice. "It's important." As Sarah glanced between Jack and Lisa, the world seemed to spin on its axis. The complexities of the past clawed its way into the present. Questions bubbled up in her mind. Was it time to finally confront those hidden truths? "Yeah, later," Sarah said ultimately, feeling a knot tighten in her gut. "I promise." But as she turned back to Jack, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of her unraveling. Could the past hold the answers she desperately sought? With that thought, Sarah's heart raced again, filled with anticipation and dread. The need to face some unfinished business loomed large. Would the truth, whatever it was, set her free? Or would it pull her deeper into a reality she wasn't prepared for? She could feel the impending storm around the corner. "Let us move on for now," she said quietly, faking a smile as they began to walk away from Lisa. But deep down, she knew it wasn't over. The past would come knocking again. And when it did, would she be ready? Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her as she turned away from Lisa, her mind racing. Each step she took with Jack felt both liberating and suffocating, a turbulent cocktail of emotions swirling within her. The laughter and shouts of children echoed behind her, but all she could hear were the words she wished to untangle from her heart. Jack glanced sideways, concern etched on his face. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice soft. "Yeah, just a lot to process." The words came out lighter than she felt. She could sense Jack trying to read her, but how could she explain what just happened? "What was that about?" he pressed, stopping to face her. "Looks like you two have history." "History is one word for it," she replied, forcing a laugh that felt more like a deflection. "Lisa and I were close in college, but we lost touch. I never expected to see her again, especially not here." Jack nodded slowly, the worry still lingering in his eyes. "Do you want to talk about it?" "I'm here for you." There was a comfort in his words, but Sarah couldn't shake the heaviness of Lisa's question. What did she need to know? And why now? It felt like a stone was lodged in her throat. "I just need some time," she finally said, steering the conversation to safer ground. "Right now, I don't want to dive into the past." "Fair enough," Jack replied, though he didn't look totally convinced. "Let me know when you're ready. We have to face those things eventually." Sarah tried to smile, but it felt forced. They walked toward a nearby cafe, the sun slicing through the tall trees, casting playful shadows on the sidewalk. As they moved, she noticed couples, families, and friends enjoying their day, laughter spilling around her like warm honey. Yet, within her, a tumult brewed. "Can I get you something?" Jack asked, pulling her from her thoughts as they approached the cafe counter. "Just a coffee for now," she replied, watching him order. He always had a way of making things feel normal. Even amidst the chaos, there was a calmness to his presence, a reminder that she wasn't entirely alone. As Jack paid, Sarah scanned the cafe, her gaze landing on Lisa, who now stood outside, biting her lip as she looked down the street. A pang of guilt hit Sarah. Had she brushed off a cry for help? Or had fate turned a corner in her life? "Hey, let's sit outside," Jack suggested, bringing her back to the moment. She nodded, and they settled at a small table under an umbrella. The breeze rustled loose leaves, the sounds of the cafe enveloping them like a warm hug. "Are you really okay?" Jack asked again, clasping his hands on the table. "You've been distant since she showed up." "I know," Sarah sighed, wrapping her arms around her coffee cup. "It's just, I don't know where to start. There's so much history with Lisa, and whatever it is, you don't have to deal with it right now if you don't want to," he reassured her, his tone rich with understanding. "But if it feels overwhelming, I'm here. Just say the word." She offered a small, grateful smile, the tension in her shoulders easing a bit. "Thanks, Jack. It's just strange seeing someone from my past. It makes everything I thought I was moving past come rushing back." "It sounds like you need to give it some thought," he said. "It's okay to take your time." The conversation shifted to lighter topics as they shared stories about work, but Sarah found herself glancing outside often, half expecting Lisa to appear again. She didn't know what to think or feel. Part of her wanted to dive into that conversation, to peel back layers of old wounds. But another part hesitated, scared of what resurfacing those memories might bring. As they finished their coffees, the clouds above began to thicken, casting a shadow over the cafe. The wind picked up, swirling leaves, creating a sense of foreboding. "I should probably get back," Sarah said, feeling the pull of laundry at home and a toddler waiting to be picked up. But her thoughts kept drifting back to Lisa, to the unresolved conversation they both needed to have. Jack offered to walk her back. "Let us not rush into anything," he said. "Just take it one step at a time." They stepped out into the growing hush of the afternoon, the atmosphere feeling charged with something unspoken. But just as Sarah took a deep breath to settle her thoughts, a figure emerged through the trees ahead. It was Lisa, and the look on her face spoke volumes. "Sarah," she called, desperation in her voice, compelling Sarah to stop in her tracks. The air around her thickened again, and instantly, the feeling of foreboding turned palpable. What truth had Lisa stumbled upon that was now clawing to be revealed? As Sarah's heart raced, she knew she could run or embrace the inevitable. What would she choose? Sarah stood frozen as Lisa's voice sliced through the air, sending a shiver down her spine. Each heartbeat resounded louder than the last, drowning out the familiar sounds of the cafe behind her. Jack shifted beside her, uncertainty flickering over his face. "Sarah, please." Lisa's tone was urgent now, her expression a mix of vulnerability and determination. "We need to talk." Jack's hand found Sarah's shoulder, a grounding touch amid the storm swirling in her mind. "Maybe we should hear her out," he suggested softly, his gaze darting between the two women. Taking a tentative step forward felt like walking on a tightrope, the weight of the past threatening to pull her down. She glanced at Jack, whose reassuring smile urged her on, a silent promise that he'd stand by her side, no matter what surfaced. "Okay," Sarah said, her voice steadier than she felt. "What do you want to talk about?" Lisa took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling like a wave. "I know this is unexpected. Everything, all of it, is so complicated. But I've learned some things about our past, things we can't ignore." With her heart pounding, Sarah searched Lisa's eyes for a hint of what lay ahead. "What about the past?" "I found out some truths about us, about our friendship, and about things that happened back then. They've haunted me, and now they might be haunting you, too." Sarah hesitated, emotions roiling. The shadows of forgotten memories threatened to swallow her whole. "Like what?" she pressed, feeling the urgency in the air. "I don't want to say it here. Not like this," Lisa replied, glancing around nervously, as though the world was listening. "Can we go somewhere private? I can't explain everything in the middle of the street." Jack squeezed Sarah's shoulder, a silent encouragement, yet uncertainty flickered in her mind. The urge to flee from this painful conversation clashed with a growing need for answers. "Okay," she finally said, glancing at Jack, who nodded. "Let us go talk." They turned to walk, Sarah leading the way, her thoughts a cacophony of curiosity and fear. As they moved, she noticed the darkening clouds gathering above, mirroring her heavy heart. With every step, the weight of past decisions loomed larger. They found a quiet corner in a nearby park, far enough from curious ears, but close enough for the world to remain present. A distant group of children played, their laughter contrasting sharply with the tension that filled the air. "All right, we're here," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady. Lisa took another deep breath, and Sarah could see the fight in her expression, part determination, part reluctance. "I was wrong to walk away from our friendship, from you," Lisa began, her voice trembling. "But there is something far more important. I should have told you before, I just didn't know how. I didn't want to hurt you." "What are you talking about?" Sarah demanded, the urgency in Lisa's tone starting to fuel her own anxiety. Lisa's gaze dropped to the ground, picking at imaginary dirt, as if searching for the right words. "It's about Mark, my brother. There are things you don't know, things that might change everything." At the mention of Mark, the pieces of an unwelcome puzzle began to click into place. Memories of late-night conversations and stray comments filtered through Sarah's mind, unsettled fragments that carried weight after all this time. Why would it involve him? What did he have to do with us? Before Lisa could respond, Sarah felt an almost magnetic pull, the memory of a phone call, the way Mark had looked at her the last time they were together, a lingering shade of something deeper. "In 5 years, I've learned that the past doesn't easily stay buried," Lisa said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And I'm afraid it's coming back to haunt us both." The words hung in the air like a warning bell, ringing ominously. Sarah's heart sank as she grasped the weight of what was unfolding. "What do you mean?" Lisa opened her mouth to answer, but suddenly, her phone buzzed in her pocket, cutting through the tension like a knife. She glanced down, eyes widening in horror. "I have to take this," she said, voice shaky. "It's important." As she stepped aside, Sarah felt a sense of impending doom settle over her. Had they been called into this moment by fate or by an unraveling secret that threatened to shatter everything she'd spent years rebuilding? And what would Lisa reveal when she returned? An unsettling feeling washed over Sarah as she watched Lisa, heart racing with the urgency of unanswered questions. What truth could possibly be so powerful that it could shake their lives again? As Lisa stepped away, Sarah felt the world shrink around her. The vibrant colors of the park faded into shadows, and the laughter of children became distant echoes. She was left with Jack, who looked equally stressed, the weight of silence enveloping them both. "What do you think it is?" Jack finally asked, his voice low. Sarah shook her head, unable to articulate the swirling dread inside her. I have no idea. But if it involves Mark, it can't be good. Jack's expression turned serious. You two had something back then, didn't you? It wasn't tea like that. It was just she trailed off, memories washing over her. Mark was more than a friend. He had been a light during her darkest times. But their relationship never crossed into deeper waters. Or had it? Just as she felt a tightening in her chest, Lisa returned, her pale face illuminated by a fear that cut deeper than the familiar concerns of their past. It was my father, Lisa stammered, her voice higher than usual. He is trying to get back in touch with Mark. He has information. Something from that summer. Something he never told me. Sarah's heart raced, a mix of surprise and confusion swirling within her. Your father? The one who left? Yes. He wants to meet Mark. He claims he knows things that could change everything. The phrase echoed in Sarah's ears. Change everything. The weight of those words settled heavily in the pit of her stomach. Why now? After all these years? Lisa bit her lip, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Because he is sick. He needs to make amends, and he believes Mark is the key. Jack interjected, trying to grasp control of the conversation. Sarah, we should hear what he has to say. Maybe it clarifies everything, gives you both the closure needed. Sarah looked back at Lisa, searching for any hint of reassurance. What kind of amends? What could he possibly want to say? I don't know. I only got fragments of the conversation. Just please, we have to find out. Lisa's voice broke, vulnerability laid bare. The air around them felt thick now, saturated with anticipation and dread, the possibility that Mark might not be the innocent character Sarah remembered. Was her past built on hidden truths? Let us meet with him, Sarah finally said, her heart pounding, a resolute decision cutting through the uncertainty. We can't run from this. Lisa nodded, a quiet sense of determination settling over her features. Whatever he says, we'll go through it together, Jack reassured Sarah, squeezing her hand. With nowhere to hide and a future that felt uncertain, they made a pact with the ghosts of their pasts. But as they gathered their resolve, Sarah felt that familiar shiver of something deeper, settling over her, a premonition that whatever truths lay ahead could change the fabric of their lives forever. It was unsettling enough to make her skin crawl. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the moment of revelation was drawing closer, an impending storm gathering just on the horizon. As they left the park, a chill gust swept through, making Sarah shudder. I hope we're ready for this, she whispered, mostly to herself. Whatever it is, we'll face it together, Jack said firmly, but Sarah could sense the apprehension hiding beneath his confidence. At that moment, Sarah realized she was standing at a crossroads. The decisions made in the next few days could release ghosts or bring them peace, but she could no longer ignore the storm brewing within her. How long would she be able to hold on to her past before it clashed violently with her future? And as they walked away, Sarah could almost hear the whispers of the unsaid truths calling her name. Would they answer back in fury, or would clarity finally emerge from the chaos? The meeting was set. With shaky hearts and determined minds, Sarah and Lisa stood outside the hushed cafe, waiting. Jack lingered a few steps back, a silent sentry, ready to offer support, but aware that the heavy lifting lay with the two friends reconnecting over the mountains of their shared history. Are you sure you want to do this? Lisa asked, her voice barely above a whisper. It could open old wounds. It's time for answers, Sarah replied, the conviction in her voice surprising even herself. I can't keep living in the shadows. As they stepped inside, the warm aroma of coffee mingled with the electric tension in the air. Mark sat at a corner table, shoulders slightly hunched, a visage of uncertainty. As Sarah approached, memories of their laughter and carefree days washed over her like a tidal wave, but she quickly shoved them aside. This was not the time for nostalgia. Hey, he offered, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Mark, Sarah said firmly, taking a seat across from him. The weight of the unspoken hung heavy, almost suffocating, as Lisa settled next to Sarah. I know this is unusual, Mark began, rubbing the back of his neck nervously. But I wanted to clarify some things that might have been left unsaid. Like what? Lisa interrupted sharply, the protective edge in her tone palpable. Why now? He sighed, eyes clouded. Because when Dad expressed that he wanted to meet again, I felt there was more at stake than just us. And I know some things about that summer. Things I wasn't ready to face before. As those words spilled out, the room grew charged with a palpable electricity. Sarah's heart quickened. What do you mean? What could be so important that it brings you back into our lives? I didn't keep in touch because I was confused. But I recently found some old letters. Things that might change everything about how you both remember him, he confessed, glancing from Lisa to Sarah, revealing the layers of regret etched across his face. Sarah felt a rush of anger rise within her. Why not tell us sooner? Why let us drift apart when we could have faced this together? Mark looked away, shame curling around him like fog. I was scared. I thought I was protecting both of you. Putting distance felt easier than confronting the past. Lisa shifted in her seat, frustration bubbling to the surface. You're not the only one who suffered. We all did, especially Sarah. She was left with questions she shouldn't have had to carry. Tension crackled like static. As they faced each other, it was a dance of emotions: regret, anger, longing, anything but indifference. I know I messed up, and I can't change that, Mark said, his voice cracking slightly. But I need you to understand that my father, he wasn't just absent. He was troubled. The decisions he made shaped my relationship with both of you. There are things I didn't want to see, and I realize now I should have. Then tell us, Sarah urged, her heart racing. What was kept from us? Mark took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage. The summer before Dad left, there were conversations about family secrets. About things he claimed were best forgotten. His sickness has brought it all back, and I can't let it fester any longer. He's reaching out because he believes he owes both of you the truth. The weight of his words landed heavily around them, each moment feeling like a lifetime as Sarah tried to comprehend the implications. This was not just about the past, but about weaving together the frayed threads of their lives into something whole once more. Sarah glanced at Lisa as tears began to shimmer in her eyes. This might change everything, but it's better to know than to live in the dark. We have to decide if we can forgive him. Forgiveness? It feels impossible, Lisa retorted, her voice trembling. But is holding on to the anger worth it if it only keeps us from healing? Have either of you felt completely whole since he left? Mark whispered, voicing the truth they all had been avoiding. The air around them seemed to draw closer, the acknowledgement hanging sweet and sour on their tongues. Silence engulfed the table, each person lost in their thoughts. What were they willing to risk? What closure could they gain by confronting ghosts of the past? All I want is for you both to know that the truth is often more freeing than the pain of an unsaid word, Mark finally added, a hopeful glimmer in his eyes. With a shaky breath, Sarah raised her chin, determination sparking within her. Then let us plan to talk to him. To hear him out. Maybe, just maybe, we can unearth something worth saving. Mark nodded again, the clarity of their shared struggles binding them softly. Each nodded agreement felt akin to knitting together adorned patches of heartbreak, and for the first time in a long time, Sarah recognized that this journey could lead them toward healing. I'm ready, Lisa affirmed, wiping away tears. With their past no longer looming as a shadow, but a guiding light leading them into the unfamiliar, they clutched at hope. This is our moment to reclaim the narrative, Sarah declared, her voice steady and infused with new strength. Together, we can face it. As they left the cafe, Sarah felt an unfamiliar lightness in her chest. The storm clouds were still gathered on the horizon, but for once, she felt they could weather whatever came next. Together. Suddenly, Jack appeared beside her, an arm casually draped over her shoulder, a comforting weight that felt like home. How do you go? He asked softly, his eyes searching hers. It was just the beginning. Sarah smiled, heart swelling with certainty. But we're ready for this. They walked down the sun-drenched street into the clarity of what lay ahead. Determination forged from vulnerability crackling between them, like lightning of force to be reckoned with, a promise of hope renewed. With every step, the past lost its grasp, and the doors of possibility swung wide open. Unafraid of the memories lingering on the edges, together they would seek the truth and forge onward, embracing what was to come. As they navigated a future wrought with change, Sarah's heart surged with courage. She knew this was the time to confront every story, the ones that haunted her and the ones waiting to unfold. And in this moment, she vowed to embrace every step of the journey ahead. Now, it's your turn to be part of this story. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive tales that unravel the depths of human experience. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow this beautiful community. We want to hear from you. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this transformative ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need a spark of hope and connection in their lives. This is the moment to show your support. Only true fans understand the importance of lifting each other through stories that bind us together.